These worlds bred the fiercest species in the galaxy. Greetings guys, and welcome back to Covenant Canon. Today, I'll be counting down my favorite homeworlds of the Covenant's many species. However, I won't be going over every homeworld in the Halo universe, but I do plan on making a detailed series about each Cradle world for each Covenant race. So stay tuned. Before I begin though, let's give Zarojar Morami a shout out for being the elder on Covenant Canon's Patreon. Thank you so much for helping out the channel, Zaro. It really means a lot. Now, with that out of the way, let's get started. This is my top 5 Covenant homeworlds. Number 5. Palamok. A large and tropical planet, Palamok is the homeworld of the insect-like Jeanjure, known mostly as drones. Out of all the core worlds within the Covenant, this planet shares a lot of similarities to Earth, though it has a low gravity and a flat surface with little to no seismic activity. This gave the Jeanjure excellent flying skills when venturing out to other worlds such as Reach or Earth. Much like bees, Palamok is ruled by queens within many hives, being the directing voice for the entire Jeanjure species. Palamok entered a brief conflict with the Covenant before joining the Empire as both engineers and soldiers. And after the fall of the Empire, many drones returned to Palamok in isolation, with only a few colluding with Covenant warlords. Number 4. Bolajo. This world is truly an icy mudball, for this was the birth world of the small and timid Ungoi, otherwise known as grunts. The planet is mostly a frozen world with a temperature of the highest 41 degrees Fahrenheit to below freezing, and what parts that are not filled with polar ice caps are consumed by violent waves and bogged by marshes. And unlike most planets within the Covenant, which are composed of oxygen, Bolajo's atmosphere is composed of methane, which the Ungois breathe through. The Covenant swiftly conquered the planet and enslaved the majority of the Ungoi population. But 300 years later, when the Ungoi rebellion erupted in 2462, the Covenant partially glassed Bolajo, forcing the rebels to surrender. After that, Bolajo became to be regarded as a backwater planet and was avoided by most shipping routes. And following the collapse of the Covenant, the planet was forgotten by most Ungoi who were living off other worlds. All the while, den mothers on Bolajo struggled to maintain their society. But all that changed with the rise of the Created, and the Ungoi homeworld accepted its new order with open arms, as this new tyrannical regime began to bring the Ungoi homeworld to a newfound splendor. Number 3. Jeanjure. A truly alien planet, this is, or was, the homeworld of the Sanshayum, better known as Prophets. The planet is much like Earth and St. Helios in terms of atmosphere and temperatures, and has a wide collection of wildlife, including living foliage. This is where the Covenant religion first came into being, with the War of Wills, a schism between the hardened Stoics who wanted to protect the holy relics of the Forerunners without interfering with them, and the open-minded Reformists who wanted to use the Forerunner relics for their own benefit. The conflict lasted over a century, ending only when the Sanshayum Reformists captured the Forerunner dreadnought and fled Jeanjure, but not before taking a piece of the planet with it. This piece would later on become a foundation for the new homeworld of the Sanshayum, the Covenant Holy City, High Charity. Jeanjure was reportedly destroyed in the early years of the Covenant during a supernova, at least according to the Sanshayum. Whether this is true or not remains to be seen. After all, they are prophets. Number 2. Doisak. A rigid and brutal planet, Doisak is the home of the violent and merciless Jirohanai, aka Brutes. Doisak is known for its lush forests and volcanic activities. It's a very harsh planet, and that is how the Brutes like it. It's a very war-torn land due to the constant Jirohanai civil warfare, typically between clans or skynes. Despite their savagery, Jirohanai proved intelligent enough to develop spaceflight and spacefaring status. However, their warlike nature eventually led them into conflict, and eventually, various Jirohanai clans fell into a massive war known as the First Immolation. The planet became heavily damaged due to nuclear weapons and almost led to the extinction of the Jirohanai race. This led to their incorporation into the Covenant Empire, after which Doisak became more peaceful, at least in terms of Jirohanai peace. But 60 years later, when the Covenant fell apart, the planet once again became embroiled by civil strife. But recently, many clan chieftains began rallying behind the banner of the Banished, led by the cunning Jirohanai warlord, Atriox. And at number 1, Helios. A beauty of a world, Helios is the cradle world of the Sangheli people, known by many as elites. Though most of the planet is covered by water or deserts, many Sangheli states have been made along the coast, governed by Kaidons and their council of elders. Once Helios, as the cradle world and center of government for the Sangheli people, was a pivotal site in the War of Beginnings, a conflict that would eventually lead to the formation of the Covenant. And 3,000 years later, after the decade-long war with the humans ended in 2552, Sangheli soldiers returned to their homeworld, only to discover that the dismantling of the Covenant had resulted in feuding and civil unrest. This led to a violent civil war known to the Sangheli as the Blooding Years. As of now, the Arbiter's Swords of Sanghelios Alliance controls most of the planet, though some holdouts to the regime remain as they controlled key religious and industrial sites. This civil war continues to rage on as factions emerge as a result of political bickerings and honor vendettas, and only the Arbiter can put an end to it in order to bring the Sangheli into a new era.